Welcome back to the Changing Lives podcast.
Welcome, guys. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, in this second and final part of our interview with advanced care paramedic Jamie Hibbert, we learn about the strengths and the blind sides also of being a paramedic and a father, particularly when his own kids get injured.
Yes.
Jamie shares how he balances family with shift and overtime work, which is, I think, really helpful for anybody looking to do the same.
Now, humour plays a significant role in Jamie's approach to life, family, and his vocation. He's a father of 4, which means he is a king of the dad joke, recognised both at home and at work. But interesting, he's a published author on the topic of dark humour and how it's used amongst paramedics as a way to cope with the trauma and catastrophe that they witness on a daily basis. He is also a proud Star Wars fanatic and a keen philosophizer, which means when combined, well, we get a deep reflection on life using Star Wars metaphors and, of course, character impersonations.
Yeah, you're going to love this interview. We had a great time chatting with him, and I think, we should go straight to it. What do you reckon?
Excellent. Great, let's do it.
So a few times last few years, we have actually sat down as a family and gone, hey, Mum and I are thinking that we're going up for a road trip. Oh, yeah, where are we going? So we plan it together. They get excited for it. We have all these dreams and stuff together. Because then, when Dad does another overtime shift, I go, oh, guess what? I just earned the accommodation for whatever place. And they slot it into, he's doing that for me, for us. You know, it's not just for Dad's techno gadgets again, or, you know, something that Dad always works, Dad always gets the treats, Dad always buys his fun. But what about my time with, what about my sports, or more my bicycle has fallen apart? If they can attribute time away from Dad, especially surplus time away, to something that's going to be towards the family, it takes the burden or the strain off or the pain out of it sometimes. My little one still misses Daddy for tucking at bedtime, you know. They still have dinner without Dad, or, you know, there's still a plate waiting for me. But it's with a purpose, and it's not always achievable. But when you can achieve it, it's very much takes the sting out of it sometimes. One day, worst dad moment ever, I refused to take my son to hospital because he rolled out of bed and hurt his arm. And I was coming off a double night shift. I was absolutely smashed. I said, I can't do it. I said to my wife, you do it. So I went back to sleep, snored my guts out, woke up in the morning all fresh and happy because I'd slept. She wakes up, rolls over, bleary-eyed. I said, what happened? And she said, yep, he's in a back slab and we got fracture clinic in the morning. I went, oh, he fractured his arm. And I was like, come on, you roll out of bed, that's stupid. And other times, I know, my little girl, she slapped a hand on the floor and opened up her finger, just burst the finger on impact, and it was still intact, but it was a cut. And the skin had peeled back. And everyone was screaming, there was blood everywhere. And the dad part of me was freaking out, oh my gosh, what have you done? You're bleeding. Oh. And the paramedic side of me was like, that's amazing. I can still see her fingerprint and the skin's not there. Oh, and I had to meet in the middle and go, okay, how are we going to rationalize this? And she didn't go anywhere. We patched it up and, you know, she was fine. But the freak out in me, I was experiencing what the patients experience as a parent, as a home, whoa, this is bad. And then once the medic in me kicked in, I'm going, okay, let's think about this. Cover it up and it'll heal. You know, and so you have these crossovers of reality, I guess, and you've got to differentiate between the two. You know, quick to judge, but then that's not the diagnosis. You've got to judge something initially, but you always have to keep an open mind that it's actually something else that could be going on, and that's probably 30 to 40% of the cases we go to. They have this presentation, which they call the complaint, but the underlying cause has to be found. And that's sometimes the secret of ambulance.
So, Jamie, that's a really good, interesting. You're a father of 4. And can you talk
Yep.
about how to balance your family life, how to keep, you know, your how to address your family's needs,
Mm.
uh, and does that being a father of four, a husband, does that inform who you are and how you go about your job?
It definitely does. One of the traps, I guess, of this job, especially for someone myself who loves it so much, is you get drawn into it. There's always overtime shifts going, so you got to resist the urge to always do overtime unless there's an actual project or something. And the family needs come in where if dad's always away at work, they get used to life without you. And that's something that occasionally breaks my heart because I want to be a dad first. So being there for the family is, for me, the foremost thing. Yes, there's tug of wars. There's the shift extension. Rule number one is you never plan anything after a shift because you won't make it. The three certainties of life for a paramedic are death, taxes, and shift extension with meal overtime. So it's a tug of war. It's always going to be there. And I think the secret behind doing all these, what I've just said, is being purposeful with and towards your family. So a few times last few years, we have actually sat down as a family and gone, hey, mum and I are thinking that we're going up for a road trip. Oh, yeah, where are we going? So we plan it together. They get excited for it. We have all these dreams and stuff together. Because then when dad does another overtime shift, I go, oh, guess what? I just earned the accommodation for whatever place. And they slot it into, he's doing that for me, for us. It's not just for dad's techno gadgets again, or, something that dad always works, dad always gets the treats, dad always buys his fun. But what about my time with, what about my sports or more my bicycle that's fallen apart? If they can attribute time away from dad, especially surplus time away, to something that's going to be towards the family, it takes the burden or the strain off or the pain out of it sometimes. My little one still misses daddy for tucking at bedtime, They still have dinner without dad, or, there's still plate waiting for me, but it's with a purpose. And it's not always achievable, but when you can achieve it, it's very much takes the sting out of it sometimes.
Do your kids and family have a sense of pride about what you do?
I think so. They love, come. Sometimes I get occasionally visit home with a truck, and they go, oh, look at this, and they love talking about, what dad does at work, and because there is a glamour to the job in the eyes of the public. I don't know why it's so sexy, but it is, and it's something that dad does. It's cool, And my son even, I share about police stories. Sometimes we do backup crews, or they back us up for safety. And my son's even thinking about doing police work, because he's a natural detective anyway and loves dobbing on his siblings. And but I think sometimes based on the stories I brought home about the police, he's and the interaction with the ambulance, he may have been influenced by that. I don't know, but I feel that they're not embarrassed or ashamed with what I do, which is a good thing, because community service and helping people, it's one of the core family beliefs that we have in our system, our family system.
Well, you're a great dad, and
Thank you.
it sounds like, though, you can't be a really good dad unless you've got a few honed your skills in a few.
Yeah, the dad joke. I heard you're got a reputation.
Yeah, so
among the force.
You're doing well when your 6-year-old at the time comes up with her own dad joke and then laughs at it. That's good.
Trained him well.
But yes, dad jokes are the bane of humanity, and I love to specialise in them. I don't apologise for that, because I love, dad jokes are how I roll. It's happened, and you watch the spelling on that, you'll get that one. But, I think a day without a pun or a dad joke in this life, in this family, is one that we would be all dead. Because if I don't crack it, my 15-year-old's hot on my heels. My son isn't too smashed hot on them, but my younger daughter as well, she's coming up behind as well. So we just love them. It's a culture, I guess. That in Star Wars, it's something that we do, and it's become not who we are, but we're, I guess, known for stuff like that.
You've brought that into the workplace, though, haven't you? This culture of humour and being able to bring in fact, you've published some articles in some journals about the role of dark humour in life as a paramedic. Can you tell us a bit more about why you chose to do that?
Yeah, well, something I noticed throughout early on in my career, but also throughout the whole time, is dark humour is everywhere, and I guess it started. I like teaching my children lessons through shock factor, good and bad. You know, a form of discipline that will shock them, like, oh, I'm never doing that again, and they'll remember the experience because of the outcome, good or bad. You know, and I sort of transitioned or take that thought into the work life, where dark humour is where it's everywhere. It's like, oh, you shouldn't say that. But when you go into the psychology of why, it's especially on road, it's the coping mechanism, the universal way that people get through the grief moment or the shock of what they've just experienced, because they have to process that. And it's a way that people can process, and people do it differently. Like, my personality is way different to yours, and so forth. And the things that you find funny, I won't really laugh at, maybe. But the things that I find hilarious, you might find offensive or shocking, you know. But when you bring the culture of people into one place, under one roof, on road, we're dealing with the same kind of things. And so that characteristics of dark humour and black humour and is real, and it's everywhere. And I approached it on the concept of, well, who should learn that, and should they learn that? Because students, first time on road, they're coming out of a nice, you know, sheltered home, 19-year-old, fresh at uni, you know, never seen, I don't know, the dark door or anything. And next thing you know, they've been thrown into this massive car accident, bodies, blood and guts everywhere. And then people cracking jokes about, I don't know, whatever it is. And they go, did I just hear that? You can't say that. How can you say that? They just die, you know, and all these, but once they get, I don't want to use the word accustomed to it, but once you take a look inside from the other side, now we're taking a look from paramedics' perspective, not the patient's perspective. When some of us is downright nasty, but it's the way that people can manage what they've just dealt with. They've had a massive personal blow. They've just cradled a dying baby, or said, you know, seen something horrible happen, and they have to cope with that now. They have to process. They have to put it behind them for the next job. So one way that they use that to compartmentalize is make a crack, have a laugh, have a bit of relief, comic relief at someone's expense, because that's the definition of dark humor, laughing at someone's expense, and then move on. And it's not that they mean any one single word of it, but it's a way to get them through the moment. Now, whether or not the viewer agrees with this mentality, it doesn't matter, because that's how it happens. It's just like trying to drop an apple, you know, and tell a scientist it's going to go up. It's not going to happen, because the way people, and not everyone's like this, but the way the general, my observations about the general dark humor in this job, some of the conversations that you will hear in the write-up room or around the kitchen table at station, don't repeat them. That's not for public consumption, but it's a vital aspect of helping someone debrief that keeps them on road for the next 20 years. In some cases, it's not every case, you know, but in the extreme cases, I have found that it's a way to get through not just the day, but the job and the career. So this article is basically addressing all of that, the psychology and theory behind it, I guess, because it's an academic article, but also introducing the concept of should students learn that, or should they learn it, and then how are we going to teach that to them in an appropriate and professional manner? Because the concept of professional black humour is the ultimate oxymoron in the universe, but it happens, you know. So yeah, that I don't know. It was just an assignment that I did for uni, for one of my subjects, and the feedback that came from my lecturer was like, "This is great. You need to publish."
Wow.
And my response is, "I'm not done yet. I ran out of word count." So I topped it up, said what I wanted to say, and submitted it. And fortunately, it was accepted by the Paramedics Australasia magazine a few years ago. So yeah, it was my journey into that, and it's always there. It's always alive. It's been sort of backbenched a bit, but it's something that won't go away.
Oh, thanks for sharing, mate.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Fascinating.
I understand you're a Star Wars fanatic as well, Jamie, and I do recognise the Millennium Falcon cockpit at the back there.
Yep.
Mate, what Star Wars character are you?
I'm definitely Darth Vader. I'm the ultimate villain. I'm
Please
sure my kids will
explain.
agree with that with their dad experience. The thing that Star Wars, or Darth Vader in particular, that it gives me hope because there's good in him. Obviously, he's introduced as a villain, especially when you go back to the prequel trilogy, that shows the journey. You know, the story of redemption is basically Star Wars. If you sum it in one word, it's redemption, because Anakin is the central character. You know, technically it's R2 because he saved the whole series, but we won't go there.
Go droids. Yep.
You know, the story, even 7, 8, 9, it's still the aftermath of Darth Vader, even though the shift focuses towards the Palpatines. You know, and for me, the personal story of Anakin's demise, slump, dark period, right at the end, redemption happens because there's still good in him, you know. And I like to, I suppose, comfort myself with my shortcomings and failures as a person, that despite all of that, my kids love me. There's still hope for me, you know, and there's another day to be a Jedi. You know, the Force is strong in our family. There's always jokes and one-liners. We've actually created our own one-liners in text messages. My wife and I just do a 3-letter acronym, and we know what it means. Or I've got a bunch of saved video micro clips to send one-liners as a response to a text that we always use. You know, it's a bit sad, I guess, but for us, it's a way of life, I guess. The way we deal with life. For me, there's a lot of parallels with Star Wars and the spiritual journey as well. And we find that we're always talking about it, you know, the philosophical side of the Force and the Sith, and you know, one's place in the universe when it comes to Star Wars, but also their own existence. So, yeah.
Well, I was expecting like Jar Jar Binks or something like that, and I was not expecting.
Jar Jar Binks.
I was not expecting the deep philosophical correlation. So thanks, Jamie.
No worries. I always like to have the impact on others that's a positive one. So I suppose if you want to talk philosophical, the Force, you know, the dark side, there is a dark side of this job, and a lot of people focus on that. But there's a bunch of Jedi fighting that dark side every shift. And I like to think of myself as, you know, always a most of the future is. You paint your own future with the jobs that you attend and how you approach them.
It almost encapsulates like the theme I felt through this whole conversation, right? Is this ability to not just see something as it is, right? Not to judge it as it is, but to realize that you have a fortuitous role, the way you approach this, your attitude, your mindset can actually. So maybe from that angle, do you mind
Absolutely.
if I lead in with that,
Yeah.
or I don't know if you want to.
It goes back to the whole, I can't believe I'm attending this patient for this case job. It's like, you go there, especially on their own, you got nothing to bounce off. So sometimes it's good, but sometimes it's bad. If you're in a seriously bad slump and like you go to the job, you think, this cannot be real. You've got to be, what are they thinking? You know, if you go in with that mentality, you're already with a fight. And I've been there plenty of times as a medic where you go in, you're 2 hours overtime, you're hungry, you're tired, you've got a headache, you shouldn't be here. You've just missed something, and you've had a bad day anyway. And now you've got someone who called because, my knee hurts, you know, something stupid. It won't be 2 hours overtime for that, but maybe it's, and this is the actual reality, it's 15 minutes before you've ended shift, supposed to end shift. And they dispatch you 30 minutes away to this job. You've got to be kidding. So you rock up there, happened last week actually, angry, tired, cranky, blah, blah, blah. And then you have to deal with this person's complaint. But now you've got the philosophical side of, well, I can project all of my filth onto her for her calling, or I can actually try to listen out and stand out what the story is. And there's one particular lady, I'll try not to get into specific details so it's be identified, but she was living alone, and every day at the end of the night she gets really anxious because she's alone. She hits a button, we come, taken to hospital, nothing wrong, because it's a psychiatric condition where she worked herself up, and now once she's at hospital, it's all fine, so it goes away. Now, I'd been to her, my arrival was her 4th presentation for the month for the same thing. The family was beside themselves because it's always happening. They were actually getting the respite care arranged that day and to start the following day. And I had to take them all the way into the Royal. I thought, man. So I thought, look, let's just do this. So I tried to sit down. I had to listen to her story, listen to the carer on scene, talk with the family, which was a conference call. Took extra time. And all this time I was like, okay, may give up. I just thought, just go with this, make the most of it. So I listened, drove her in, handed over, had to this massive case sheet. And it turned out the doctor who I handed over to was actually on the previous night, which was the night that she also presented. And he was like, oh, not her again. We've dealt with her before. There's nothing to do, blah, blah, blah. I said, look, it's different this time. This is the story. They've actually got stuff in place. It's starting tomorrow. She just needs somewhere to stay safe to stay overnight. And everything else should start the wheels in motion tomorrow. So, and the look in his face was like, oh, that's good. Excellent. Well done. You know, and it just changed. And I remember thinking back to myself, wow, I could have just gone, get to the hospital, take you in and drop her and dump and run. And that's all I wanted to do. But I had to fight that negative, and it's a natural desire. It's a natural response of humanity just to go, right, you earned that, stuff you. But to see through that and to go, okay, let's look at the bigger picture. And it's part of the LARU thing again, take that step back. In that case, she didn't need a hospital, but she needed respite, and there was nowhere else for her to go. So hospital was the best place. But had I not taken that time to actually look into the social situation, which was the presenting actual complaint. Now, I went to I was called to chest pain, heart racing, and something else to do with like a mental health condition, mental health breakdown, I think it came through as. That was what we were seeing on the surface, but the actual underlying condition was what I had to explore and find out and treat in the form of a transport for the next morning. And that's a classic case of something you go to, even as an acute crew, where you just need to sometimes suss out and play detective for a bit, put everything aside what's just happened to you as a person, because that's going to get in the way. And sometimes you've got to feel the force to do that and listen to the inner voice, the inner, just take a step back type feeling and go with your gut. And that takes time to practice too, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, it's been really insightful to talk to you, Jamie. I really like your approach to putting yourself in the patient's, shoes, in their head, and I think you've hit on some really, just great ways of approaching. No matter what your scope is, these are real people that we're helping, and we're there. Like you said, I'm there for them at this right now, what they need from me right now, or whatever it may be. And it sounds like you're in such a great fit for you too. Your role as a LARU officer, it's the stepping back, assessing the situation, not broad brushing people when you go and see them, and identifying maybe some of those more subtle underlying issues that they need addressing. And I learn a lot about the service as a whole, and different levels and scopes of practice that you can operate in. I'd really like to ask you, we have a lot of listeners that are either starting out, that may be doing a diploma in paramedical science, or they may be considering this line of work. Would you have any advice for them, particularly now, knowing what you do now? And you said before that, when you started out, you really didn't know what it meant and what it was like to be a paramedic. You just had this kind of generalized concept of the work. And obviously now you have an informed viewpoint and, many years on road. What would you say to students now?
First of all, the word's reality check. And this is something to go in knowing up front. Ambulance has had experienced a massive dynamic shift in the healthcare industry. And we're at the forefront of that change. So 20 years ago, yes, it was all car accidents, all babies, all death, drownings, whatever. That's now probably 50% of our workload, less maybe. It's not all blood and guts. In fact, it's more poo and spew. And the reality side is that people go in expecting this glamorous lights and sirens, high acuity, cannulas and whatnot, when half the day you can, and they expect young people and middle-aged people, you can do a whole shift doing geriatrics, like old people, frail nursing homes, mental health, it hurts, I'm hungry. And a lot of people come into this job disillusioned that they are going to do all the good stuff, when really you got to sometimes go a week and a half before you get the big job. I went 6 months between big jobs once. It was frustrating because I had the wrong mindset. I'm not here for the big job. That's probably take home number one. I'm here for whatever patient I get to, no matter what. And that's what I've just been the whole time talking about. The other thing is, not that I want to discourage people, but it's a reality in today's world. Degree equals not job necessarily. There are sometimes, I don't know what the exact stats are, but at least 10 to 20 applications, if not more, per role that's available. So it's great. I encourage anyone, if you've got an interest, this job's about passion, as you've probably picked up. It's not a paycheck, it's a passion. It's not just something to do to fill my day and then I get to go home and spend time with my kids. I get to do something I love, and I haven't worked a day in my life. And that's why I really wanted to do that, and I've done it. But it's about, if you've got a passion for studies, diploma leading to a degree, that's continue, because you're doing this for a reason, obviously. And I don't want to crush that drive, because when you get to the other side, you get through your placement program. Every graduate does a GPIP, I think. But then after the GPIP, you have to reapply for a job. And that's where it gets really competitive, because if you're not willing to work anywhere but the metro, it could be a bit disappointing for you. Because a lot of people might have to go out to west or up north or, remote areas for a time. They have transfer points you can add up per year and all that. And not everyone's unlucky, but not everyone's that lucky to get exactly where they were and just stay there. I was lucky because I came in before the whole degree-based training. Once you're in, back then it was that's where you are. But now it's changed. There's a lot of demand, a lot of competition, and I don't want to discourage people, but I want you to know that you could be the best future paramedic out there, and I don't want you to not apply just because you think you might not get in. The one station had 3 of the top CCPs in the region. The one station, like 20 years ago, they're all there. You just don't know where they're going to be. There's always another role. There's always another person who'll fill that role if you don't. And so just go in knowing that it's incredibly rewarding. It's incredibly challenging to get in, but you will not regret the journey. And a lot of people actually do the double degree, the paramedic and nursing double. It's a 4-year. If you're wavering, well, shall I, shan't I, do it. It's only an extra year of study. It's a whole extra career option. And it's something you can fall back on with nursing. I know quite a few have gone to nursing instead of paramedics. They prefer the paramedic side, but because there's no opportunity there or there's been no job offer, they can go into nursing and keep their skills active, which is probably my next point. Stay active, stay mentally active, read, study. I've got 3 academic kind of micro projects on the go at the moment that I shift between. I treat them like full-time university studies without assignments. Like you got psychology, you got to do that. Oh, I've got to go back and do my whatever other unit, and I've got this assignment's due in the 3rd unit, so you got to do a bit of each across the term. So I switch between reading a textbook, which I'm working my way through for background knowledge, and also practicing my drug therapy protocols and my skills I'm trying to do, to keep my LARU stuff up. So I just switch between them, and it keeps me active and prepared, because a few years ago, I just thought, I'm having a break, did nothing for 2 years. And I just felt my mental acuity just stagnate, and I could feel it. I thought, I've got to do something. I'm gonna drop out if I don't be careful. So suppose you go a degree, you finish up, you go 2 years before job offer, then you'll freak out because you're underskilled, underpracticed, out of the loop. So just keep alert, keep active with your background reading. You don't have to be crazy about it or stupid, but just I don't know, get a journal, subscribe to a feed. I bought a textbook. You can get ebooks really cheap. I'm just working my way through. It's like 1,000 pages of physiology and human physiology. Get podcasts. Just keep yourself active. They say if you read an hour a day in your chosen work of field, after 7 years you'll be an industry expert. That's the saying. So I should be a double industry expert based on that and my time in the field. And I'm not, because I've done other things, and that's fine. But the potential is there, 1% better every day, and that's what I encourage people to do. Just because you've done a degree doesn't mean you won't always necessarily get a job. But just because you didn't get that job, stay prepared for the next round, the next intake. If it's really what you want to do, don't give up. Passion. It's about following your dreams, your drive. I wanted to be a doctor, and I didn't think I had it in me. So I didn't even pursue that in the end. And I always look over my shoulder thinking, oh man, I could have been a consultant by now, Am I going to let that stop me now? Well, no. I'm not doing what I initially dreamed to do, but there's no way I could have had the impact on the people that I'm impacting right now, both patients and colleagues, if I wasn't right here, right now in this job. And that wouldn't have happened if I'd have done doctor. I mean, it would have affected other lives elsewhere, but I know that my purpose is for now and here, and that's what I've discovered through the journey.
Yeah. Well, Jamie, love your passion. It really is inspiring. Obviously, you're highly motivated, but what I hear too is that perseverance. It's taken you a while to get to where you're at, and I don't think for any student out there that's kind of beginning the journey, I think hearing your story and the dedication and the passion, but also that perseverance it takes to get there, I think will they'll be able to take that away from it and experience what seems to be, I mean, what we're hearing, a pretty fulfilling career.
There's definitely highs and lows, but the trend is always up.
Yeah.
And that's all I can really say, you know, with the right attitude towards the approach of the job. Yeah.
Excellent, mate. It's been great talking to you. Great to see you again after a long stint. Really nice to catch up and to hear what you've been doing. It's great to actually be in a similar space than you, and it's been refreshing to hear your perspective. So thank you very much. All the best with the family and your future career. Thanks, mate. Bye-bye.
See ya.